Corrupt cops thought they got away, stunned when the black female judge revealed her true identity. Welcome back to Meaningful Stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and start the story right now. Brinkhaven wasn't always a ghost of itself. Once, it breathed with life, a sleepy little town where the sun dipped low over picket fences, casting golden streaks across streets, alive with the hum of neighbors swapping stories and the laughter of kids racing bikes until dusk. The badge on a cop's chest meant something back then: trust, safety, a handshake you could count on. But that was before the shadows crept in, before the air turned sour with secrets, before the town became a cage. Now, Brinkhaven is a graveyard of hope. Doors slam shut and bolts snap tight before the last light bleeds from the sky. Whispers replace conversations, hushed, fearful words that die in throats when a patrol car rolls by. Its siren a predator's growl. A traffic stop isn't just a ticket anymore, it's a coin toss between going home or vanishing into the night. Another name scratched onto a list of unsolved cases that grows longer with every moon. Trust? That's a word buried deep under the dirt of betrayal. The police don't serve here, they rule. At the heart of this rotting kingdom stands Ethan Kowalski. He wasn't always a monster, or maybe he was, hiding behind a polished grin and a badge that gleamed like a lie. Once, people thought him a good cop, the kind who'd tip his hat and ask after your folks. But that mask slipped long ago, revealing the predator beneath. A man who didn't just bend the law, he forged it into a crown. Brinkhaven became his empire, built on a throne of dirty cash and trembling fear. He decided who walked free and who sank into a cell, or a shallow grave. Drug deals fueled his fortune. Protection rackets lined his pockets. Hush money kept mouths shut. Every dollar was a shackle, every favor a noose, and he wore his power like a king draped in blood-red velvet. But even a king needs a blade. And that's where Darren Reese slinks in, Kowalski's shadow. His enforcer. His rabid dog on a chain. Reese doesn't wear a badge, he wields it like a club. They pin medals on him for bravery. But the people of Brinkhaven know the truth. He's a walking nightmare. Cross him, and your shop burns to ash. Labeled an accident in the morning report. Dig too deep, and your car's a charred husk by dawn. Witnesses? They don't make it to court, they don't make it anywhere. Reese doesn't ask, doesn't flinch. His job is fear, and he's damn good at it. Together, Kowalski and Reese have turned Brinkhaven into a pressure cooker, simmering with dread, ready to blow. The question isn't if it'll explode, it's when. Jessica Mallory didn't step into Brinkhaven's police station with her eyes shut. She came armed with a rookie's fire, dreams of justice blazing in her chest. A badge pinned to her uniform like a promise carved in steel. She'd seen the old photos of cops as heroes, heard the stories of a town that once slept easy under their watch. And Ethan Kowalski? He was the sun she orbited at first, a beacon of grit and grit-toothed authority. The kind of leader she'd scribbled into her childhood notebooks. But heroes don't last long in Brinkhaven. They either bend or break. And Jessica's illusions were about to shatter. It started with a whisper, a case against a slick-suited businessman, heavy with evidence, that vanished overnight like smoke in a storm. She asked why, her voice still green, still sharp with belief. Shut it, they snapped, eyes cold as gunmetal. She swallowed the sting and pressed on. But the cracks kept widening. Drug money, stacks of it, slipped from evidence lockers, leaving nothing but dust and shrugs. She saw it once, caught the glint of a bill vanishing into a pocket, and got a warning that night: keep your head down, Mallory, or lose it. Then came the alley, Reese. Fists like sledgehammers, pounding a suspect into the pavement. Blood pooling black under flickering streetlights. Self-defense, they told her to write. Their voices a chorus of menace. She gripped the pen so hard it cracked, ink bleeding like the truth she couldn't unsee. This wasn't one bad cop, it was a plague. The whole damn department was a machine. Gears greased with lies and oiled by fear, humming under Kowalski's iron grip. Jessica's faith didn't just fade, it was torched, leaving ashes of doubt in its wake. She stood at a crossroads now, the air thick with the stench of corruption. Fall in line, march to their drum, become another cog in the beast, or fight back and risk disappearing like the rest. Every glance from Reese felt like a blade at her throat. Every nod from Kowalski was a chain tightening. She wasn't blind anymore, but she wasn't free either. Trapped in a den of wolves. Jessica Mallory was a spark waiting to ignite, or a lamb teetering on the edge of slaughter. In Brinkhaven, hesitation was a death sentence, and her next move would either save her soul or bury it. In the dim, flickering belly of Brinkhaven's courthouse, Tiana Rosewood was a shadow no one saw coming. To the untrained eye, she was a nobody, a quiet cog in the grinding gears of bureaucracy. Hunched over a desk piled high with yellowed files, her fingers stained with the dust of forgotten cases. Her blouse was pressed crisp, her nods polite, her presence so soft it barely rippled the stale air of the records room. But beneath that unassuming mask burned a fire colder than ice, sharper than steel. Tiana wasn't just some overworked assistant, she was a wolf in sheepskin. An FBI ghost slipped into the heart of the beast. And she was here to tear it apart. Every day, she danced on a razor's edge. By lamplight, she sifted through the courthouse's dirty laundry, arrest reports that stank of forgery. Court documents bleeding with lies. Case files that ended in whispers instead of justice. To the clerks droning past her desk, she was just cataloging the past. A paper pusher drowning in ink and boredom. But Tiana saw what they didn't. Patterns in the chaos. Threads of rot woven through every page. Missing evidence here. A dropped charge there. A suspect's name scrubbed clean when it should have screamed guilt. Each scrap was a brick in Kowalski's empire. And she was the silent architect of its ruin, piecing together a map of corruption so vast it could swallow the town whole. She wasn't invincible, though. Jessica Mallory's eyes had started to linger, those cop-sharp stares cutting through the haze. Catching the way Tiana's hands paused over certain files. The way her laptop snapped shut like a trap when footsteps echoed too close. Tiana felt it, that prickle on her neck. The weight of being hunted in a den of hunters. She couldn't afford a misstep, not when every falsified report she uncovered was a grenade. Primed and waiting. Invisible she might be, but invincible she wasn't. One wrong move, one flicker of suspicion too bright, and the wolves would smell blood. Tiana Rosewood wasn't just playing a game. She was a phantom threading a needle through a storm. And the clock was ticking louder with every heartbeat. The diner was a tomb of flickering shadows, its neon sign buzzing like a dying insect against the black shroud of night. The air reeked of scorched coffee and grease so thick it clung to the walls. But Tiana Rosewood wasn't here for the stale pie. She sat in the back booth, a silhouette carved from steel, her fingers tracing the chipped rim of a cold coffee mug. Her pulse was a steady drumbeat. Her eyes locked on the door. Then it creaked open, and Kevin Cross slipped inside, ragged, restless, a man with the weight of a guillotine strapped to his back. He didn't bother with pleasantries. He slid into the seat across from her, his breath shallow, his gaze darting like a hunted animal's before landing on her. He didn't speak, just reached into his jacket with trembling hands and dropped a manila envelope onto the table. Its edges worn, its contents a ticking bomb. This, he rasped, tapping it once, his voice a frayed wire, is what you've been chasing. Tiana's fingers closed around it, steady as stone, and slid out the prize, a grainy photograph, smeared with shadows but sharp with truth. 2 Brinkhaven cops, a warehouse bathed in sickly yellow light, a bag of seized evidence changing hands like a handshake between devils. And there, lurking in the background, Ethan Kowalski's unmistakable silhouette, bribery in black and white. Corruption caught mid-breath, her stomach coiled tight, a snake ready to strike. "Where'd you get this?" she asked, her tone smooth as a blade. Kevin's eyes flicked to the diner's grimy window. Then back. "A source," he muttered. "Someone who's as sick of this as we are." His breath hitched, a crack in his armor. "But if I've got it, Kowalski knows someone else does too." The words hung heavy, a death knell wrapped in quiet. Tiana leaned forward, her voice low, lethal. "You need to disappear, Kevin, now." His mask shattered, just for a heartbeat, his fists clenching on the table. "They're already on me," he said, voice quaking. "My place, tossed. My car, tailed. This?" He jabbed a finger at the envelope. "This is my coffin." Silence stretched taut, a wire about to snap. He stood, unsteady, and locked eyes with her, a raw, unspoken vow. "If I go down, you make sure this doesn't." Then he turned, boots scuffing the floor, and melted into the night. Tiana's instincts screamed to drag him back, to shield him from the jaws closing in. But she didn't. She couldn't. And as the diner door groaned shut behind him, a chill sank into her bones. She knew it then, with a certainty that tasted like ash. That was the last time she'd see Kevin Cross alive. The photograph burned in her grip, a spark destined to ignite Brinkhaven's powder keg, and she was the one holding the match. The courthouse was a mausoleum of secrets, its corridors cloaked in a silence that pressed against the walls like a held breath. Tiana Rosewood sat at her desk in the records room, a lone figure bathed in the sickly glow of a flickering bulb. Her fingers flipping through files with the precision of a surgeon, or a predator. The air was thick with the musty tang of old paper and the ghosts of buried truths. But tonight, something else lingered. A prickle on her skin. A whisper of danger too close to ignore. She wasn't alone. Across the room, Jessica Mallory stood like a sentinel, arms crossed, her cop's eyes glinting with a hunger Tiana couldn't mistake. The hunter had found her prey. Jessica had been circling for days, her gaze a slow, relentless tide, washing over Tiana's every move. The way she lingered near the archives. The way her shadow fell too often in Tiana's path. It wasn't chance. It was a net tightening. She'd clocked the oddities, a records assistant digging into closed cases. Her laptop slamming shut like a guillotine when footsteps neared. The quiet intensity that didn't fit the drab blouse and meek nods. Jessica wasn't green anymore. She'd seen enough in Brinkhaven to smell a lie. And Tiana reeked of one. Their eyes locked for a fleeting second, a jolt of lightning in the dim, and Tiana played her hand. A smile, soft as a breeze, innocent as a lamb. Just doing my job, it said, but Jessica's face was stone, unyielding, her lips a thin slash of suspicion. The air crackled as Jessica stepped closer, her boots a deliberate drumbeat on the worn floor. She didn't smile back. She tilted her head, a wolf sizing up a rival, and let the silence stretch until it screamed. Then she turned, slow as a blade twisting, and walked away, pausing only to cast a final glance over her shoulder. It wasn't a goodbye, it was a warning carved in ice. I see you. Tiana's breath slipped out, a thread of control unraveling, her fingers digging into the file until the edges bit her skin. Too close, too damn close. Jessica wasn't just watching now, she was hunting, piecing together a puzzle that could blow Tiana's cover wide open. One word to Kowalski, one whisper to Reese, and the records room would become her tomb. Jessica was a live wire, teetering on a knife's edge. She hadn't run to the wolves yet, not enough proof, not enough nerve, but the gears were turning. In her chest, a war raged. The cop who'd sworn to uphold justice clawing against the survivor who'd learned to bow to Brinkhaven's kings. Tiana knew it. This wasn't over. It was a fuse lit and hissing. And when it burned out, Jessica would either be an ally, or the one to pull the trigger. In this den of shadows, trust was a gamble, and Tiana was betting her life on a woman who didn't even know the game she'd stumbled into. The courthouse loomed like a fortress of shattered vows, its marble facade a cruel mockery of the justice it once promised. Inside, Ethan Kowalski strode through the doors as if he owned the air itself, uniform crisp as a blade. Shoulders squared with the swagger of a king untouchable. His smirk was a venomous slash, his eyes glinting with the certainty of a man who'd rigged the game long before the gavel fell. This wasn't a trial to him, it was a coronation. A stage for the world to watch him crush another threat beneath his heel. Behind him trailed Darren Reese, Brian O'Connor, and Heather Mallory, puppets with blank faces. Their steps a disciplined echo of his reign. The gallery buzzed with whispers. But Kowalski heard only applause in his mind. He'd buried deeper scandals than this. And today would be no different. Across the room, District Attorney Elizabeth Calder sat rigid, her knuckles white around a pen that trembled with her fury. Months of sleepless nights had forged this case, every witness, every shred of evidence a brick in a wall she'd built to topple him. But now, that wall was crumbling. Hours before dawn, her phone had buzzed with a voice smooth as silk and cold as death. Drop it. Miss Calder. For your own good. No threats. No bluster. Just a promise wrapped in velvet. Chilling her to the marrow. She'd wanted to scream defiance. To believe truth could win. But as Kowalski's gaze locked onto hers, his grin a taunt. A dare. Doubt slithered in. The judge's subtle nod to the defense. The lawyer's quiet smirks. It was a script she hadn't written. A noose tightening around her neck. Kowalski leaned back in his chair. A lion lounging on a throne of bones. Savoring her unraveling. He'd bought the best attorneys dirty money could snare, pinstriped sharks who didn't just defend but devoured. The real power wasn't in this room, it was in the shadows behind it. Pulling strings he'd knotted years ago. Calder's fists clenched as the trial began. The gavels echo a hollow knell. She saw it in his ease. His chuckle. He wasn't fighting for freedom, he was waiting for her to break. In Brinkhaven, justice was a ghost, and power was God. Kowalski had wielded it like a scepter, bending the law until it knelt. Today, he expected the same, another victory etched in blood and silence. What he didn't see, what he couldn't fathom, was the storm brewing just beyond his crown, ready to rip his world from its hinges. The courtroom was a cauldron of stifled breath, its air thick with the weight of a storm about to break. Ethan Kowalski sat like a warlord on trial, sprawled in his chair. His smirk a dagger glinting in the dim light, certain the game was his to win. The gallery rustled with the restless hum of a town starved for justice. Their eyes darting between him and Elizabeth Calder, who gripped her table's edge as if it could anchor her against the tide of his arrogance. He'd played his ace, forged reports and bought witnesses dumped on the judge's bench like a royal flush. His lawyer's voice dripping oil as he spun lies into gold. Calder's case teetered, her resolve fraying under his mocking gaze. He chuckled, a low rumble of triumph, already tasting victory's bitter wine. Then the doors crashed open, and the air split like glass. Tiana Rosewood stepped in, a blade of midnight in a tailored black suit, her heels striking the floor with the cadence of a war drum. No meek records clerk now, she was a tempest unleashed. Her presence a thunderclap that silenced the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The judge froze mid-breath, and Kowalski's smirk flickered, a crack in his iron mask. She crossed the floor unyielding, every step a declaration, and stopped at Calder's side. The DA's stunned eyes met hers as Tiana's voice cut through the haze. Steady as a guillotine's fall, Your Honor. I'd like to introduce Special Agent Tiana Rosewood of the FBI. The words detonated, shockwaves rolling through the gallery. A collective inhale as the truth sank in. Kowalski's fingers twitched, his jaw clenched, a beast sensing the trap snap shut. She didn't flinch. From her briefcase, she drew a black flash drive, small, unassuming, a dagger cloaked in shadow, and plugged it into the audio system. Kowalski's voice snarled to life. Raw and damning. You pay. We look the other way. Cross me, and you're done. Ice clinked. A glass clattered, his empire laid bare in every syllable. The room erupted, a chorus of gasps and scribbled pens. But Tiana wasn't finished. She set a cracked phone on the table. Kevin Cross's Last Stand, and tapped play. Grainy footage flared. A man begging. A gunshot cracking the night. Reese spitting on a corpse. Kowalski's shadow looming. This is how they do it. Kevin's voice rasped. A ghost's final cry. Chaos swallowed the silence. Screams. Gavel slams. Kowalski's fist slamming the table. His face a mask of rage and ruin. He lunged, not for his lawyer. Not for reason, but for the door. A cornered animal clawing for escape. Chairs toppled. A spectator shrieked as he barreled through. But the FBI was faster, agents swarming like wolves. Tackling him to the marble floor with a bone-rattling thud. Cuffs snapped tight. His own tools turned against him. And he thrashed, spitting venom. This is a setup. I own this town. Tiana stepped forward, her voice a whisper for his ears alone. Not anymore. His world burned, his throne toppled, and as they dragged him away, Brinkhaven saw its tyrant fall. Justice had clawed its way free, but in the echo of his snarls, a question lingered. Was this the end? Or just the first domino? The courthouse doors burst wide, spilling chaos into the twilight like blood from a fresh wound. Brinkhaven's streets erupted, a roar of raw, ragged triumph shaking the cobblestones as Ethan Kowalski and his pack were dragged out in chains. Once untouchable, their badges now stripped, they stumbled under the glare of flashing cameras and the weight of a town unshackled. The crowd surged, a tide of pent-up fury and fragile hope. Some wept, tears carving tracks through years of fear. Others shouted until their voices broke. Fists raised against the sky. Reporters swarmed, microphones thrusting like spears, capturing the fall of tyrants who'd ruled with iron and dread. For the first time in a decade, Brinkhaven tasted freedom's sharp edge. A fleeting dawn piercing the endless night. Tiana Rosewood stood on the courthouse steps, a solitary figure against the storm of celebration. Her black suit stark as a raven's wing. She should have felt the thrill of victory. Kowalski's empire was ash. Her hands the torch that lit the pyre. But the air was wrong, heavy with a chill that sank into her bones. Her eyes swept the crowd, searching for a ghost she couldn't name. When her phone buzzed, a low, insistent pulse in her grip, she answered, and the world shrank to static. Then came the voice, deep, smooth, a serpent uncoiling in the dark. You think you've won? Her pulse spiked, a drumbeat of ice. The cheers faded to a dull hum as the voice purred on. Amused, unhurried. This is just the tip of the iceberg. She gripped the phone tighter, nails biting her palm. Who is this? She demanded. But the line clicked dead, leaving only a low chuckle echoing in her skull. Across the city, beyond the clamor and the lights, a man sat in a shadowed room. The skyline's glow bleeding through glass walls. His face was a void, swallowed by darkness, but his smirk gleamed like a blade as he swirled a crystal glass of whiskey. The amber liquid catching flickers of the night. The phone on his desk hummed faintly, still warm from the call. He took a slow sip, savoring the burn, unruffled as a storm cloud over a doomed sea. Kowalski? A pawn, nothing more. A loud dog leashed to a bigger hand. Tiana had toppled a king, but she'd just stepped onto a chessboard vast and treacherous, its edges lost in fog. The man leaned back, his laugh a whisper of menace. She'd won a battle, yes, but the war? That was his to wage. Tiana lowered her phone, the crowd's roar crashing back like a wave. But her mind was elsewhere, reeling, racing. Her victory felt hollow now. A cracked trophy in a game she hadn't fully grasped. The voice lingered, a splinter under her skin. Tip of the iceberg. Kowalski was gone, but something darker loomed, something with roots deeper than Brinkhaven's streets. Something that watched and waited. Justice wasn't a prize you claimed here, it was a beast you fought tooth and nail. Day after blood-soaked day. As the cheers swelled and the night deepened, one truth clawed at her. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning, and the real enemy was still out there, pulling strings she couldn't yet see. Thank you for accompanying us in today's story. See you again in the next videos. Hello and see you again.